Well, it looked great until it didn't. Oklahoma has a 3-0 lead in the game, but Tennessee scores 5 runs in the top of the 4th inning. Vols win it 5-3 over the Sooners. They take the series 2-3 over Oklahoma. OU's first series loss of the year. What's your big takeaway from Sunday? What's your big takeaway of the series? I know I don't have to ask you guys to drop them in the comments. You will anyways, but drop your thoughts in the comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. What a series. Highly competitive, great series, back and forth, but Oklahoma comes up a little bit short. And, yeah, you feel frustrated because you felt like you had the game won. And I certainly felt that way sitting out in the left field bleachers. Shout out to my uncle Bill Burleson for giving me some tickets today. I appreciate him for that. It was a fun day out at Love's Field. But I felt sky high in the bottom of the 3rd inning after Cassidy Pickering has the bases clearing 3-run double. I felt great. You felt great. We all felt great. They hit Carlin Pickens well on Friday, and now they're starting to get after her a little bit. Now's when you really start to roll. And he didn't score again for the rest of the game. And then, of course, the Vols get 5 runs in the top of the 4th inning with 2 outs and nobody on. Man, just sitting here talking about it, getting all frustrated all over again about this game because you just felt so good. And I don't know what you guys were thinking at the time, but when OU's up 3-0, even in the bottom of the 3rd inning, after the first 9 outs, I'm saying to myself, I mean, is Sam Landry even going to give up 3 runs today? Like, is OU good here? Is the OU offense just, do they even need to do anything for the rest of the day? The way her velocity looks, her off-speed looks, how in command she looks, kind of felt like Sam Landry was just going to cruise all day today. And she was, and she did, outside of that moment in the top of the 4th inning. And that's why it's just so frustrating, because you thought in a lot of ways that she was good today and the defense was fantastic behind her, but nobody on, 2 outs, and it all led with, I think it was a walk on a 3-2 count to Taylor Pannell. Next thing you know, they get a 2 RBI base hit down the right field line that you reviewed and they upheld, and then they get the 3-run home run to go up 5-3. So, yeah, it's frustrating. I still ride with this team. Like, don't get me wrong about that. I am not saying that this season is over and that they're not any good. Like, that's not what I'm saying this Sunday afternoon. But I am saying that, yeah, it was frustrating because you had a 3-0 lead against a team, yes, that is very good, but with a pitcher in the circle that is your best and had performed well up to that point. And again, outside even that top of the 4th inning, Sam Landry wasn't as sharp in the back half of the game as she was at the front part, but she was still pretty good. And that's what makes it frustrating is she gets a loss today, and she actually has 2 losses on the weekend. Landry goes 7 innings, 5 runs allowed, all in the top of the 4th inning. Just the 4 hits, 6 strikeouts, and 2 walks, her second loss of the weekend. Just a tough one to swallow, for sure. Tough one to swallow, and, you know, you just needed more offense. Obviously, you needed more offense from this team. Just the 4 hits for Oklahoma. Abby Dayton had 2. Pickering, of course, had that big double in the gap, and Hannah Core had 1. That was reviewed, I believe, at the time and upheld in OU's favor. You got to get more production from your offense. And you got some pretty decent production from the top part of your order this weekend. Again, Dayton had 2 hits. Pickering had the hit. She was fantastic all weekend long. But you didn't get enough production in the middle part of your order. You didn't get a whole lot of production at the bottom part of your order as well. Like, really, for the most part this weekend, it was just a few hitters. And outside that, you didn't have productions from the big bats that you need in the middle of the order and the bats down the order that you needed as well. So that's frustrating, something that you felt really good about going into this weekend against a very good pitching staff. Just wasn't good enough today, and it wasn't good enough this weekend. But Oklahoma Falls, they are 31-3 now on the season. All of their goals are still out in front of them, and an SEC championship, a national championship, all of that. Like, just because, and I know that there's going to be some strong reactions in the comments. I get that, but OU's hopes and dreams didn't dissolve up in smoke today. But at the same time, they're not good enough right now. And Patty Gasso essentially said that after the game, and she's right. I don't think anyone believed that they were good enough coming into this weekend. After what we saw Wednesday night in Wichita, Kansas, I don't think anyone had believed, like, this team has arrived, they're peaking. Like, no, like, we knew that, but clearly you face a top 10 team, arguably the best team that OU's faced up to this point, so it was a good measuring stick weekend to see where you're at as a team, and you came up short. And you came close to winning the series. You know, if it wasn't a great throw on Friday night, you win the game, but you can't play things that way. You know, like, you almost won the series, sure, but you could play that both ways. What if Sidney Sanders doesn't hit the 3-run home run? Fact of the matter is you lost the series against arguably the best team that you faced up to this point. So it's a good measuring stick series to see where you're at, and hopefully this team learns from it and they're better for it moving forward. But a disappointing Sunday, no other way to say it. And you got to get back to the drawing board, and you've got to get some of these other hitters back on track. And look, I love what Patty said about Ella Parker. Sticking with her. I'm not taking her out of the lineup. I believe in her. She's one of the best hitters. I think that that's going to pay dividends down the road, but she's clearly not playing her best softball right now. So I'm hoping that she can get healthy this week and start to get going, because if you are going to be good enough to realize your full potential, if you are going to be good enough to do the things that you want to do, you're going to need Ella Parker to be hitting her best, and she's pretty far from that right now. Big takeaway to me from this weekend, a couple of things. One, like I said, that's a top 10 Tennessee team. Is that the best team that you faced so far this year? I think so. I know they lost the series last week to Arkansas, but I think, you know, just kind of head-to-head, I think Tennessee slightly better than Arkansas. And that's the best team that you faced up to this point, in my opinion, and you lost the series. So you get an idea of exactly where you're at, maybe in the SEC and maybe just kind of in all of college softball. I think Tennessee's going to make it to Oklahoma City. I don't think that that's a shock. I think they're good. I think they have a very good pitching staff. They've got some very capable hitters. I wouldn't say they have an elite offense, but I think that they have a good offense. So a team that I think will make it to Oklahoma City, you know, you got to match up with them this weekend, and that's kind of where you're at right now. You've got to get better. My big takeaway is just that. Like, that's how you look stacked up to a team that I think is going to make it to Oklahoma City, and it wasn't good enough. And then offensively, like, they can't leave runners on base. They've got to do a better job of manufacturing runs. And as great as it was that Cassidy Pickering had the bases clearing 3-run double, I go back to this, is that she was standing on second base with no outs in that inning. And not only did she not score, I don't even think that she advanced. Maybe she did advance to third with 2 outs in that inning, if I remember correctly. Maybe not. The point is that she didn't score. You got to be greedy. And yes, that's awesome to get a 3-run double in the bottom of the third, and you feel like, hey, Sam Landry's great, and no, you got to be greedy. Get Cassidy Pickering in. Keep that going. You got a runner at second, nobody out. You've got to get that runner in. And they didn't. As good of an inning as that was in the bottom of the third, you've got to find a way to get Cassidy Pickering in. It wasn't the difference in a 2-run game in a win or a loss, but it's things like that. You've got to keep the rally going. You got to keep the inning going. And if you got someone in scoring position with nobody out against really good pitchers, you got to find a way to score. The big bright spot offensively this weekend was Cassidy Pickering. I mean, she was great. 14 straight plate appearances that she reached. She was 7 for 8 this series, if my numbers were correct. She was awesome at the plate, and she had the hit on Friday night that resulted in Hannah Core getting thrown out at home plate. She had the 3-run double today. Like, Pickering has maybe at times this year been a little up and down, but when she's been good, she's been really good, and she looked very good this weekend against some very, very good pitchers. SEC Pitcher of the Week last week, and arguably the best pitching staff in all of the SEC. But I think a big reason why Cassidy Pickering was so good, not only today but throughout this weekend, is, you know, she wasn't hesitant. She was aggressive. She just kind of let it loose. And Patty mentioned after the game that she didn't see that enough from her offense. It felt like, I don't know if you want to say tight, but, you know, they were putting the ball in play, sure, but they just weren't hitting the ball hard. You know, OU just didn't have a lot of great swings at the plate on this Sunday. Cassidy Pickering did. She had the big double that cleared the bases, sure, but just I don't know if the approach was off. Obviously the velocity's tough to deal with. Carlin Pickens is really good, so you give some credit there. But Carlin Pickens isn't the only good pitcher that they're going to see this year. You know, Rothrock from Florida is really good. Tegan Cavan, Citlali, Gutierrez from Texas. I mean, everyone's got a good arm. And yes, maybe Carlin Pickens is the best of them all in the SEC, but this offense has got to get back to being aggressive and swinging more freely and just playing their game at the plate. Didn't see that enough from this weekend. Did see it from Cassidy Pickering, and it's a big reason why she had just such a fantastic weekend. Defensively, there's a silver lining from this weekend. I thought the defense was excellent all 3 days. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't think OU had an error the entire series, and that's nice to bounce back after having 3 errors against Wichita State. Cassidy Pickering made a great play in right field on Sunday that got everyone on their feet. Of course, Ilana Agbayani making an unbelievable snow cone catch on Saturday to end the game. So there is a silver lining for sure from this weekend. The defense was really good. It needs to continue to be really good. But proud of that effort that they not only made the routine plays this weekend, they made the spectacular plays as well. And that's something that we've been accustomed to seeing with OU softball. So not a great night defensively, very sloppy defensively on Wednesday. But give this team credit for that. You are allowed to give this team credit for things, even though they lost the series. And defense, you can definitely give this team credit for that. All right, so that's one positive thing. I'm going to attempt at least another potentially positive thing. More things are going to happen for this to become a positive. But I hope that we can look up in a month or 2 months and look back at this Tennessee series and say, well, that stunk. We lost the series, but something very, very important happened in that series, and it really helped propel us moving forward. I hope the same way that we look at that Oklahoma State series loss last year at the end of the regular season, we could say, well, they lost the series, and that stunk, but that team got right on Sunday, and it really propelled themselves forward in the postseason. I am hoping that there is more good to come from Kirsten Deal. I really, really hope that that is the case because that was good. Her performance on Saturday was awesome. It was spectacular. It's what you needed in that moment, and clearly it kept you from a series sweep. But there's got to be more of that moving forward. And I'm not saying that she has to shut down a top 10 team every single time she goes out there, but her next couple of starts I'm extremely, extremely interested in. I hope that she can give you good starts, give you good innings, and that just wasn't, hey, I was feeling it on a Saturday afternoon, and yeah, that was great, but I'm not going to be consistent here moving forward. It stinks that you lost this series to Tennessee, but some good can come of this. And if there's good that comes of this, it's because Kirsten Deal really rises to the occasion, gets on a hot streak in the circle, and becomes that number 2 pitcher that we keep talking about for this team. So maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe we look back in a month, 2 months' time and say, well, it's a series loss, and that's how we're always going to remember it, a series loss. But if there is something good that comes from this, and I hope something good comes from this, it's, hey, you lost the series, but you found someone in the circle that's about to start playing their best softball. That arm is Kirsten Deal, and you have your number 2 pitcher moving forward. Far away from declaring that, but I'm hoping that can at least come out of this weekend. And with that MVP of the week, I'm going to go with Kirsten Deal. You can go with Cassidy Pickering here. I won't fight with you. I won't argue with you. I think those are the two. Like Sid Sanders had the big home run on Saturday, but I think it's between Pickering and I think it's between KD. I'll give KD the nod here because that was the one win that you got this weekend. She had the complete game performance, just a 1 earned run against Tennessee. Pickering's hard to say no to, 7 for 8 weekends, but the one win that you got on Saturday was on the back of Kirsten Deal. Therefore, I'll give KD her first MVP of the week honors of the season thus far. All right, what's next? Well, I'll tell you what's next. You're going to dip out of SEC play for a week. So an opportunity to maybe take a step back, maybe take a bit of a deep breath, kind of regroup, regather yourself here. But don't take too long to rest because you still got 4 games next week. Now, these are 4 games that I wouldn't say are SEC caliber type of games. You got to go to UTA on Tuesday. You'll play St. Thomas on Friday, and then you'll play UCF game 2 of a doubleheader on Friday, and then you'll face off against UCF on Saturday afternoon. Now, UCF is the best team that you're going to face this weekend, and by their record, they're just not an exceptional team. 22-16 on the year, but they also just beat Florida in the midweek. And yes, they just lost to Baylor 2 of 3 in a series this weekend, but UCF is capable. UCF just beat Florida. Clearly, they're capable of beating the biggest and the best teams in all of college softball. So you get to take a step back, maybe take a deep breath here, catch your breath a little bit, get regrouped, but don't rest for too long, and do not let your guard down. You got to come back aggressive. You got to get the offense going. You got to get good starts from multiple pitchers this week. This is a good opportunity to step back from SEC play, regroup, get some confidence, get things right. But a 2-2 weekend's not going to cut it here. A 3-1 weekend is not going to cut it here. I know UCF just beat Florida, but I think that you should beat them twice. I hope you beat them twice. A 4-0 weekend is what I'm expecting going into the weekend, and I think that it is very, very important before you get back to SEC play that you use this upcoming weekend to get right. All right, lastly, a look around the SEC before I get out of here. Texas lost game 1 of the series to Mississippi State, but ended up taking 2 of 3. So that's a team that we keep an eye on every single weekend. The Horns got a series win. Florida got a sweep over Auburn. That's big for the Gators after losing that series earlier in the year to Texas. Florida's still really good. And then bouncing back from that UCF loss in just a few days ago. Ole Miss got the sweep over, got a doubleheader sweep on Sunday over Mizzou. Bama took the series over Georgia. That's a good series win. Bama took that 2-3 over the Georgia Bulldogs. Arkansas sweeps Kentucky over the weekend. So you're starting to see some things take shape in the SEC. And we're going to find out more here over the course of the next 2 to 3 weeks. I still think it's Oklahoma, it's Texas, and it's Florida. But maybe as well as those 3 teams, maybe it's also Tennessee that's there. Maybe it's also LSU that's there. And as I'm recording, LSU and South Carolina are playing in a rubber match right now. But there's a lot of teams, I think, that can win this league, and a lot of teams that have a chance to make it to Oklahoma City at the end of this year. So the SEC this year, I think this conference is what we thought this conference was going to be. And in the case of some teams, an Ole Miss, a South Carolina, and maybe some others, are maybe even a little bit better than I or some other people thought. But that's a look around the SEC, the best league in college softball, and Oklahoma needs to get better, and they need to get right before they get back to SEC play. Appreciate you guys, as always. Hope you enjoyed the weekend. We will talk soon. Like that video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. As always, thank you for watching.